Okay. Continuing on with the conversation, and again, this isn't a rebuttal to Andre Lieta da Silva. This is a reply to Andre Lieta da Silva. Okay, I'm hoping that somehow he can understand why the things that he's experiencing are written that he would get the kind of result that he's getting, and what's actually required to get the result that he wants, which he does, which he dismisses kind of it up front as like, I've never believed in anything. I'll never, I'm just that kind, that won't ever happen. Well, but what I tell you is that you have to put that aside in order to actually apprehend what's being discussed here. If you don't do that, then you're not following the teaching. So when the teaching's not providing you with a reflective benefit, it's like, duh, you're not doing what the teaching says you must do. And it's not just chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. He says, again, I just read to you, it's except when it goes against, it's not in accord with those 14 things that were delineated. So what I did is I wrote to Andre, and Andre wrote me back, and he was very critical of me, almost dismissive of me, saying that I'm just not, because I asked him if he really understood the meaning of dogma. And I could go to the dictionary definition of dogma, but dogma is a belief that's already been put forward by usually a founding or someone of authority as a laid down fact or premise, a factual premise. So I go back to Nam Myoho Renge Kyo as factual premise based on the fact that the teaching says specifically what I'm saying, and he's calling that dogma. That's not what dogma means, and I will get into that. The dogma is the teaching of Nichiren. And yes, we have dogma. It's the dogma of Nichiren. We believe his teaching that Nam Myoho Renge Kyo is the essence that is to be utilized in the latter day of the law. That is an extension of the Lotus Sutra preached by Shakyamuni from the former and the middle day of the law. Is all tied together if you knew anything about everything. Yeah. But his whole thing is that what he's expressing is critical thinking. Okay, and critical thinking is the premise that you're able to judge subjectively the environment or come to certain conclusions based on the result you see versus the effort that you make. Okay, so an actual dictionary definition would be to the objective analysis and evaluation of an issue in order to form a judgment. Okay, now what he's basically saying is his objective position is that he's doing all he should have to do. He should only have to chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. That's what somebody told him. I guess, again, my first encounter with Andre had to do with him talking about the practice of Daimoku. And I had never heard anybody ever reference the practice of Daimoku. So I thought maybe he's just not connected enough to have the lexicon down. But if anybody thinks that there is a practice that just involves chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, please show me where it is. It's not anywhere in any of the Gosho. It's not in any of the source materials that I utilize. The practice is having faith in the teaching of Nichiren and doing your best to aspire to become of the same mind as Nichiren. And in that process, through that connection, bring forth that Buddha nature, which is innate within your life, but is not expressed in any other way unless you are manifesting it in accord with the original state. And the only way to accomplish that in the latter day of the law, according to Nichiren, is to chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo with faith in his teaching that what he's saying and his interpretation in what he's saying is true. So I go by what the Gosho says. He left even less than interpretations of Daisaku Ikeda. If you read everything, you'll find that Daisaku Ikeda is never freelancing. It's always based on what the Gosho really actually says. Okay? Mm-hmm. So even though people go, wow, They hear him say this or that. They ascribe it to him. He's constantly expressing himself, Daisaku Ikeda, to us as a fellow practitioner. We will have to go through what he's had to go through, and he's not doing nothing more than saying, whoa, dudes, be aware. This is what I had to go through. This is what, this is what correct faith got me. Okay? So, we had everybody can read, it's open dialogue, it's not hidden, from the 2 videos ago. The last video I just read on 14 Slanders Go Show. Okay, as the prelude to what I'm about to read, which is a continuum of the conversation with Andre over this circumstance of what is slander, what is not slander. It's not up to Andre to decide what's slander. Slander is specifically and definitively defined. I will share that with everyone as part of this exercise. And I want everybody to understand where I was coming from when I spoke to him, because if I disappear Andre at some point, I want you to know that I didn't do it with malice. I did it because he doesn't really listen to what I'm saying. He acts like he does. He acts like a very nice guy. I don't have anything personally to no axe to grind, but he's engaging on a basis that he's not qualified for. And without any offense to him, I'm trying to show and explain to him where that disconnect is actually occurring. I had written to him, let me try and find this. Okay. Hey, Tom, I am contacting you again. Okay. I think I wrote to Andre. Yeah, hang on. I used the same 100. Hi, Andre. Let's make this conversation. Okay. What I wrote publicly can be read anywhere. I mean, you can read it right on the YouTube channel. It's the last video prior to the one that we just did. And then what I wrote to him privately was, hi, Andre, let's make the conversation more private now. If you have really been chanting an hour a day and don't even feel anything else and don't feel anything, what else could I say? You should stop. Because his whole big question is, I've been chanting for over a year. I've been chanting sincerely. I've been chanting up to an hour a day. But I see absolutely no benefit. Nothing is coming from this. And every time Andre's ever asked a question, he has emphasized the negativity and the lack of influence or power tenfold over anything objectively being asked. It's more like let me tell you how much I've done, and there's nothing there. Okay? So he's coming at it. Now, you may not call that slander. He calls that critical thinking. Okay? I'm going to now refute Andre. All right? By using Buddhist terms and definitions, which he's obviously not aware of. They're not coming from me. That's why, again, it's beyond what I want to say. I need you to understand this is what the dogma is. Okay? And if you don't accept the dogma of the faith that is the basis of the teaching, there's no way your daimoku chanting that daimoku, that mantra, Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, could bring you what we're talking about, because it's qualified over and over again. I said up front, a faith at the very beginning is just trying it, just doing it with the sense of, let me see what will happen. But it seems, Andre, you've almost started from the very beginning with some level of either disconnect or negativity or some misunderstanding that I've tried to make clear, and I failed, and I sincerely and deeply regret that. But if your response is going to constantly be to repeat the same post 6 times unless I write back to you, I respond to it in writing. I mean, I can go through here and show you where, Andre, you've put the same thing over and over, trying to get my attention. I understand. But quite often, I don't go backwards in the videos, man. I go on to the next thing. So you write something 4 months after I spoke to it, the channel is not mine. I don't get a notification of anybody's comments. They all go to George. And if George doesn't think to bring them to my attention, there's no way that I ever find out unless I'm just kind of tripping back through to see if anybody said anything that I need to be aware of. I don't get to every single video because, there's almost 300 of them now. So he says, I had written what I had written publicly. And then I wrote to him saying, hey, hi, Andre, let's make the conversation more private now. In other words, the reason that I want to take it private is not because I'm afraid of what you have to say to me, because you don't know anything for me to be intimidated by you, frankly. But I don't want you to keep mouthing off about shit you don't know and creating more bad karma for yourself, because I'm contributing to that at that point. Okay, that's why I said, let's take. You think I'm afraid of what you have to say? Not even remotely, bro. Okay, so that's why I'm going to out it all right now. All right, so it says, hi, Andre, let's make the conversation more private now. If you've really been chanting an hour a day and don't even feel anything, what else? Don't feel anything, what else could I say? You should stop. You have had this kind of conversation with more than just me, and I know that from seeing posts by you elsewhere. It would seem that you are very adamant and repetitive in your insistence that your efforts bring you nothing, even now reducing the significance of daimoku by calling it saying 4 syllables over and over and over. That's how much you're demeaning it as you're conversing about it, bro. You're slandering while you're talking, but you call it critical thinking. Yeah. I'm trying to tell you, your critical thinking is getting you into some trouble when you let it come out of your mouth instead of stay in your mind. All right? When you let it stay in your mind, it can only screw you. When you start letting it come out of your mouth, you have the potential to affect others, and the karma for doing that is much greater than any delusion that you have yourself. That's why I said stop. All right? So, do you actually watch our videos? Hang on, let me say. You have had this kind of conversation with more than just me, and I know that from seeing posts by you elsewhere. It would seem you are very adamant and repetitive in your insistence that your efforts bring you nothing, not even now reducing the significance of the daimoku. That's on that last page of that video two videos ago. By calling it saying 4 syllables over and over again. I am surprised you would feel anything at all with these kinds of expressed attitudes. Do you really think it would make any sense for saying such things would bring you benefit? Do you actually watch our videos, or do you just post on them because your other posts I have seen elsewhere are very similar to the ones you have left on Old Soup? Please confirm that you actually watch the videos. I will be chanting about this. Don't think I am blowing you off. I am actually trying to stop you from what I consider to be slander, the way I see you repeat your comments in more than one place. You seem to be less about asking for answers and more about spreading the word that your chanting doesn't work. I am deeply and sincerely sorry for that. In almost 50 years of practice, I have never advised anyone to stop. You are the first, and I did so without trepidation. Warm regards. And so he comes back at me and he says, Tom, you seem to have ignored or consciously or unconsciously my story as a man who had never had faith in anything or had a religion, which I explained to you from the first time you told me that has to change, because you're not going to get anywhere going forward with that attitude, bro. But you're holding on to it completely here, and that's why you're not getting anywhere. So let me continue, because this is all spelled out with everything I sent to you. There should be really no question or argument unless you're wanting to question and argue for the sake of doing it. And you've left 2 more posts, which are exactly that, because I already spelled all this out to you. I didn't get on a video to respond to you, but I will, and I am right now. He says, pardon me. Tom, you seem to have ignored consciously or unconsciously my story as a man who never had faith in anything or had a religion. For over a year, I have been practicing daimoku daily, but that's not what the practice of the Buddhism of sowing entails. It's more than just chanting the daimoku, and especially if you're chanting the daimoku with no faith. You know, you're chanting the daimoku with almost a disparagement to prove that it doesn't work. That's not going to... I mean, Jesus, I don't even understand where you're coming from with some of what you're saying here. He says, you say, for 1 hour, For more than 6 months, I pray for at least 1 hour a day without any positive results. Now, I don't know how many people are going to chime in to say, me too, but I haven't heard from any of them. None of them, bro. And I've never negated anything that you've ever written. And you've written at least 10 or 15 messages to me on Old Soup. Okay? So he says, so I'm not really sure even when you ask this question, should I take you seriously? Because it feels a little bit like based on, you say what you say, but then you do what you do. Are you just playing with me? Are you just trying to see if you can get to me or mix me up somehow or whatever? I don't know, but you can't, and I've already explained why, and so I'm more than happy to continue this back and forth, but I really would appreciate it if you don't do it in public anymore, because I'm now putting an end to your comments as it relates to them having any validity as far as I'm concerned. All right. I started, he says, for over a year. I think I must have asked him. I've already made a mention of dogma. I think on the channel. At any rate, I've already explained again what is dogma. It is a proof, an undisputed truth of religion, normally of a religious belief. It could be of any belief. If it's absolute, then it's a dogma. Okay. He says, For more than 6 months, I pray for at least 1 hour a day without any positive results. Nothing has happened so far. I started more than a year ago doing the 100-day Daimoku challenge for a test or result, and nothing happened. You know that. Yes, that was when I first heard from you. And I explained to you, what do you mean a Daimoku challenge, and where are you getting the practice of Daimoku? I've never heard of that. That's when I first told you the things that I'm repeating now. He says, so should I just keep praying and nothing happens and think it's good? Now, when you say that, you sound a little smartass, bro. And I don't know. Are you coming back at me? I'm telling you what Nichiren says. So is this your way of challenging Nichiren? I don't know. I'm confused by the way you come back at me. You say, I can't question the effectiveness of the method when the method in my experience never worked. Now listen to what you're saying, how you're saying it. And that's not critical thinking when, again, you're utilizing your lack of faith as the basis of slander, which is what's keeping any effect that has been prescribed or promised from having a chance to manifest. So you got to get rid of that part. Maybe we can get there. He says, so should I just keep praying and nothing happens and think it's good? I can't question the effectiveness of the method when the method in my experience never worked. And is that a sin? Slander? That's dogma. Again, bro, that is considered a slander. Okay, when you call it a sin, I don't know. We're getting into more like a Christian kind of a situation. A slander is something that affects your karma. And it doesn't always affect it this next moment or in an hour. It can affect it not until the next lifetime, depending upon how serious it is. So, but you've definitely encountered Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, or we wouldn't be having this dialogue, Andre. And you're not a bad guy, Andre. I'm not saying that in any way, shape, or form. I'm a little frustrated because you come back at me so publicly, and I have to take so much time to unwind what you say, to put it in a perspective that anybody reading it could actually know without going back. And that's why I'm having to devote a whole section to just you. All right? He says, I can't question the effectiveness of the method when the method in my experience never worked. And that is a sin, a slander. Again, you equated sin and slander together. I didn't call it a sin. He says, that's dogma. You say, you qualify, that's dogma. And then I went on to ask you, do you really know what dogma means? And you said, yes, absolutely. Do you know what critical thinking means? The bottom line, bro, is that dogma means an unquestioned belief in something. All right? That's what we're referring to when we refer to faith. That's not something that it is dogma, but it's only dogma from the premise that's already spelled out in advance before you even start. And I wasn't involved in you getting started, so I don't know what anybody said to you. At any rate, let me continue. You qualify that what I'm saying is dogma. You say, I've read Gosho's, I've read books about Nichiren from BSGI, Brasilia Soka Gakkai, and I've seen several of his videos. But apart from the theoretic, I've seen several of his videos, I don't really understand what you could be talking about when you say his, okay? But apart from the theoretical and even dogmatic aspect of religion, I never saw anything in practice. It's because you were never practicing correctly. As I've already pointed out to you time and time again, and you redefine you can do whatever you want, which I say, no, you can't. You say, this is previous conversations being recapped again. You continue, yes, I have been having more and more difficulties to keep practicing, and I ask questions because I would like to understand if the daimoku will not work for me, or if people like me are simply not able to make good use of the supposed mystic law. Now again, you didn't view it that way, but once again, the minute you qualified it as the supposed mystic law, you're discounting it and dismissing it as potentially bullshit.
Right.
And if you approach it like with that kind of an attitude or declaration, somebody that just read this for the first time could go, the supposed mystic law, and immediately be turned off by something you said without even having any meaning to have it conveyed in that way. But because of this dialogue that you insist in having in public, I have no choice but to read everything you've read to me, you've sent to me, and to read everything I've sent to you. And that's what I'll continue to do here. He says, the supposed mystic law. Am I not encouraging or preventing anyone from practicing? He says, no, I'm not. I'm just trying to understand how far I'll have to practice daimoku without any success, in all caps. Again, it's like you're going out of your way to emphasize the lack of efficacy. That's the most important point for you to make, is how this really doesn't work. Dude, I'm reading it out loud. My wife is shaking her head up and down. She's never read this, but she's hearing it now. She's going, oh, okay, no wonder. Okay, without any success, in all caps. I would like to ask you one more time if there is something I should do, or if in my case there is no way I should give up. I just cannot keep chanting every day expecting that one day something will happen. I need proof, evidence, or a concrete result. And I know you're sincere when you say this. Thank you for your time. I know you need proof. I know you need a concrete result. But I am explaining to you in what followed here that you still didn't gather in because you disputed me further on that video instead of taking it back and forth privately as I requested. You're going to have to modify your approach to be in keeping with the approach that's qualified by the teaching as necessary to make advance. Or else all you're doing is creating slander. And if that's what I see you doing, is doing nothing but creating slander, yeah, I tell you, don't stop chanting. Wait till your next lifetime, Jesus. Hopefully something I'll say something will kick in. Something will be different than in this lifetime. Because in this lifetime, bro, you're behaving as an ikchantika. You are epitomizing a person of incorrigible disbelief. And then asking the question, are there people like me that can chant and not get anything out of it? According to the 14 slanders by Nichiren in Volume 1, yes. They're called ikchantikas. And I wrote to you exactly what describes them. I'm going to do that for everybody else now. I'm going to read what I wrote. He says, pardon me, thank you for your time, which I appreciate, and I know that you're sincere, and I don't think badly of you, bro. I'm just trying to get to the bottom of this and stop it so that you can see the benefit of all the effort you've made. And believe me, if everything you're saying is on the straight up and up, the minute that you make the vital change, your fortune will come pouring back to you like rain in a thunderstorm.
For sure.
Okay, so I says, P.S. If my questions are bothersome, I can stop posting them. But it doesn't make sense to be subscribed to a channel that you can't ask questions. This dogmatic, I think he's just saying dogmatic. This dogmatic, almost like a cult aspect of religion, was something that kept me away. Now, dude, I can kind of understand where you're coming from, but for there to be a teacher for a teaching, and for his teaching to be the basis of how one validly pursues the reward that's promised in that teaching, isn't cultish or dogmatic. It's the facts. And you don't know the facts, but you keep making arguments that are based on your opinion. And so I even go to the dictionary now. Okay. I say to him then, next one, I got to go through all these, pardon me. I then say, Andre, dude. Okay, I know. I guess I responded in some other fashion here. Okay, all I did was right. Pardon me. I put quotation marks around your quote, calling Nam-myoho Renge-kyo the supposed mystic law. Then I responded, Andre, dude, you keep asking questions. I keep giving you straight and honest answers, and you reject those answers. The reason I said quit is that while you won't accept it as such, to call Nam-myoho Renge-kyo the supposed mystic law is to denigrate it regardless of what you say. I don't, and regardless of what you say, I don't give a shit about your opinion. You keep coming back to me with this is dogma. Based on what? Based on what in the teaching would you say that dogma is a pejorative? Dogma is an element of all organized thoughts of philosophies. I don't know where you're coming from in this comment, but at any rate, Andre, dude, you keep asking questions, I keep giving you straight and honest answers, and you reject those answers. The reason I said quit is that while you won't accept it as such, to call Nam-myoho Renge-kyo the supposed mystic law is to denigrate it, regardless of what you say. I don't give a shit about your opinion. Your opinion does not have anything to do with my answers. You use the word dogma as if it is a pejorative. And anybody who doesn't know, pejorative means to prejudice, right? Like dogma's a bad thing. No, dogma's in all belief sets, okay? You use the word dogma as if it's a pejorative. Are you just that much smarter than others? I told you I am not blowing you off, but you don't know shit. I'm kind of tired of you insisting your way of viewing things has I'm kind of tired of you insisting your way of viewing things has nothing to do with the lack of results you see. I see you going to send, I am going to send you the Gosho I will be reading next for you, which is the Gosho that I just read in the previous video. Let's see what Nichiren has to say. And I just read everybody that Gosho. I am only trying to help you whether you understand that or not. Instead of just Q&A, how about we attempt to know one another? I then added definitions from the dictionary so that we're not confusing what my definition when I say slander might be to yours. It's not just saying an impolite or disagreeable comment, okay? Slander in Buddhism is something very specific. It's more specifically always when I say slander, I'm not saying you're ugly or you're overweight. I'm talking about slander of the law. That's the only thing that counts. Right. Okay? Slander of the law, slander of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. The supposed mystic law, in my mind, is absolutely slandering Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. All right? So you understand, I hope, hopefully now, even though what I wrote you can't seem to understand. Slander from the Buddhist dictionary. This is all lifted. From now on, I'm just going to be quoting reference sources. More specifically, slander of the law. To deny, which is what you just did several times. Oppose, which you're kind of saying you have the right to if you don't see the result that you expect. Disparage, which is what you've also done and what these are just I've only quoted you quoted a little bit of the stuff that you've actually said to me. All right? Or to vilify. And I don't think that you're vilifying, but you're certainly not providing any accommodation. To vilify the correct Buddhist teaching. So slander of the law, because it changes. In the former and the middle day of the law, there was still slander of the law, but it wasn't about Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, because Nam-myoho Renge-kyo hadn't been revealed yet. It hadn't been the fifth 500-year period. So understand, this is timeless, these definitions. This wasn't made up by Nichiren Daishonin, okay, or by the study department of the Soka Gakkai. This lexicon of definitions are from real authoritative sources, okay? You can take it to the bank. The Soka Gakkai already has, all right? So, slander, more specifically slander of the law, to deny, oppose, disparage, or vilify the correct teaching, which is based on the time. The simile and parable 3rd chapter of the Lotus Sutra reads, if a person fails to have faith, but instead slanders this sutra, immediately he will destroy all seeds for becoming a Buddha in this world. When his life comes to an end, he will enter the Avicii hell. Myolo says in his annotations on the words and phrases of the Lotus Sutra, this Lotus Sutra opens the seeds of Buddhahood inherent in the beings of each of the 6 paths. But if one slanders the sutra, then the seeds will be destroyed. According to the Nirvana Sutra, not to reproach those who slander the law amounts to committing slander oneself. So my understanding of the teaching says that whenever I hear someone like you saying what I'm hearing you say, if I don't say anything about it and I just let it slide like everybody but Shirley did, okay, they are complicit in your slander. Okay, we don't have the right to just decide who should hear the truth and who shouldn't hear the truth. When somebody speaks something that isn't the truth, we're supposed to, for the sake of all beings, not for that person, express the truth. Okay, so understand that. I'm only repeating what's already written from the Lotus Sutra, for Christ's sake, man. That's from 2,000 years ago. Nothing from SGI or Tom here. Let me say it again. When his life comes to an end, if a person fails to have faith but instead slanders this sutra, which in the latter days, Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, Nichiren has clarified that, immediately he will destroy all the seeds for becoming a Buddha in this world. When his life comes to an end, he will enter the Avicii hell. Myolo says in his annotations on the words and phrases of the Lotus Sutra, this Lotus Sutra opens up the seeds of Buddhahood inherent in the beings of each of the 6 paths. But if one slanders the sutra, then the seeds will be destroyed. According to the Nirvana Sutra, not to reproach those who slander the law amounts to committing slander oneself. The sutra reads, even if a good monk sees someone destroying the teaching and disregards him, failing to reproach him, to oust him, or to punish him for his offense, then you should realize that that monk is betraying the Buddha's teaching. But if he ousts the destroyer of the law, reproaches him, or punishes him, then he is my disciple and a true voice here. And that's all I'm trying to do, is be a disciple and true voice here. Nichiren states, those who put their faith in it, the Lotus Sutra, will surely attain Buddhahood, while those who slander it will establish a poison drum relationship with it and will likewise attain Buddhahood. And then it says, see the 14 slanders, which I just read you, the Gosho on the 14 slanders. Next comes a dictionary definition of the 14 slanders. But do understand, this is saying Nichiren qualifies that what happens is that when you create the slander that I'm reproaching you for committing, you have still established a relationship with Nam-myoho Renge-kyo that cannot be broken no matter what you do. And you will suffer what there is to suffer and enjoy what there is to enjoy until you finally get a clue and become the Buddha that you are, expressing the innate reality of your 9-world life. Okay, so the dictionary definition of the 14 slanders that Nichiren just talked to Matsuno about. It says 14 types of slander enumerated in the annotations on the words and phrases of the Lotus Sutra by Myolo, which I just quoted from. All right, he says, based on the contents of the simile and parable third chapter of the Lotus Sutra. This consists of 14 offenses against the law or the Buddhist teachings and against the people who believe in and practice it. So what's good? You slandered the Buddha, the same thing that would be but you would do to slander a Buddha. If you slander me, you got the same effect. I have the same equivalency to a Buddha as long as I'm upholding my faith and doing everything that this is talking about, whether I have attained Buddhahood or not. All right? Brought it forth from my life. They are, one, arrogance, okay? And there's 5 different kinds of arrogance that I will get into next, because arrogance is broken down so beautifully because you're so guilty of that arrogance, which is the first of the 14 slanders. And I don't say that abusively. When I read what arrogance is all about, bro, that's what you've been doing. Okay, so arrogance, negligence, which means not doing what you say you're doing, wrong views of the self, thinking you know more than you maybe do, shallow understanding, the depth of the teachings being exposed to you and you hanging on to little chits and chads in order to say, yeah, but what about? Yeah, but what about? Shallow understanding, attachment to earthly desires, seeking nothing but shit for your own pleasure. Not understanding is one of the 14 slanders. Not understanding. Well, how could that be your fault for you to not understand? It's based on your karma that you don't understand. Okay? So not understanding, you don't get away from the effect of slander just because you don't understand. It's slander. That's what I was trying to explain to you. That's why I said stop. All right? Not understanding is 6. Not believing is number 7. Scowling with knitted brows. Now that you got to kind of use your mind. But as some of the shit you type, man, I can just see the look on your face. You can see that look on the faces of Ichikantikas who are disputing the truth of the perfect teaching. All right? Scowling with knitted brows. Harboring doubts, which is what you've just expressed over and over and over and over again. Slandering, which you may want to say you define a certain way. No, this is saying slandering is slandering the law as it defines what slander is. All right? And then, those 10 are for people that don't have faith. Then, if you're a believer, you must be very careful about despising, knowing another fellow believer that you just can't you just can't stand. Okay? We cannot do that without trying to shake it off in front of the Gohonzan and reach a higher life condition and a greater level of understanding, which allows us to perceive the truth that there is no separation between us and anybody else. And it's stupid to despise or hate or slander or envy or bear grudges, because those are the last 4. Slandering, last 4. Despising, hating, envying, and bearing grudges. We don't do those according to other fellow believers. According to the simile and parable chapter, the last 4 offenses are leveled at the practitioners of the Lotus Sutra. Okay? This chapter reads, if this person should slander a sutra such as this, or on seeing those who read, recite, copy, and uphold the sutra, should despise, hate, envy, or bear grudges against them, the penalty this person must pay. Listen, I will tell you now, when his life comes to an end, he will enter the Avicii hell, which means he will experience the world of hell in his next existence. All right? So again, the chapter reads, if this person should slander a sutra such as this, or seeing those who read, recite, copy, and uphold this sutra should despise, hate, envy, or bear grudges against them, the penalty this person must pay, listen, I will tell you now, when his life comes to an end, he will enter the Avicii hell. I told you the first of the 14 slanders is arrogance. Let me continue with the dictionary definition of that. In Buddhism, a function of the mind that obstructs Buddhist practice and the way to enlightenment. Arrogance means to hold oneself to be higher than to look down upon others, and therefore hinders correct judgment. And I'm not going to accuse you of that, Andre, but you really should take a really self-reflective look at yourself. I'm going to repeat what it says. In Buddhism, a function of the mind that obstructs the Buddhist practice and the way to enlightenment. Arrogance means to hold oneself to be higher than and to look down upon others, and therefore hinders correct judgment. It hinders correct judgment and leaves you with ignorance, incorrect judgment, misunderstanding, not knowing. Buddhism discerned the functions and pitfalls of an arrogant mind, and various Buddhist writings define 7, 8, and 9 types of arrogance. I said 5 minutes ago. It's 9. A number of figures representing arrogance appear throughout the Buddhist scriptures as well, such as the 5,000 arrogant persons in the Lotus Sutra and the great arrogant Brahmin in the record of the Western regions. Expressions such as the banner of arrogance and the banner of pride are also found in Buddhist writings. See also 5,000 arrogant persons, which I won't get into, great arrogant Brahmin, which I won't get into, and the 9 types of arrogance, because this provides further discernment of this definition of what arrogance is. Also 9 arrogances. 9 types of arrogance is how it's in the dictionary. So you have to look under in, not a. Also 9 arrogances. 9 kinds of arrogance explained in the treatise on the source of wisdom and the Dharma analysis treasury. They are: 1, thinking that one surpasses one's equals. So if you go into any kind of a judgment like that, okay, where you feel that in essence you are surpassing someone, you know more than they do. You know something they don't know, okay? And that's not the case, or they're equal to you. They know just as much as you do. You're committing slander based on committing arrogance, as far as these 9 types of arrogance. So let me just go through them all quickly, but that's the gist of this. All right, so 1, thinking that one surpasses one's equals. 2, thinking that one's equal to those who are superior. Thinking that you're equal to those who actually have more merit in their karmic existence than you have. 3, thinking that one is only slightly inferior to those who are far superior. 4, assuming false humility and affirming the superiority of those in fact superior to oneself. 5, asserting equality with one's equals. 6, 5, asserting equality with one's equals. To even judge them on the basis of them being your equal. It's judgment at all is arrogance. 6, asserting the inferiority of one's equals. 7, thinking that one is not surpassed by one's equals. 8, thinking that one's equals are not equal to oneself, i.e. that they are inferior. And 9, humbly acknowledging the superiority of superiors and vaunting one's inferiority, a form of false flattery. Okay, and then I wrote again 14 slanders. I sent him the whole Gosho I just read to all of you, along with the background and the notes, so he'd have that in its entirety. And then I added the note, quoting from his previous note to me, private email, saying, when he called it the supposed mystic law. Now that I've defined the 14 slanders and what slander is and what arrogance is all about, the first of the 14 slanders, I then say to him, the supposed mystic law, quoting him, equals slander. More specifically, slander of the law to deny. Then I go into my own explanation saying, I am not the one that set the parameters for attaining Buddhahood in this lifetime. Nichiren did, on the basis of a lifetime of study and practice of teachings preceding the personal enlightenment that he had revealed in his life and ultimately identified as Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Saying what I say is nothing personal, brother. I want you to be happy. I want you to see a result, but I cannot change your karma. Only you can do that. Warm regards, Tom. And then I go on to say, P.S. brother, I am not sure you correctly understand the meaning of dogma. Please look it up. Thank you. And then he shot back at me. I absolutely know the meaning of dogma. Do you know the meaning of objective of critical thinking? And so that was okay, fine. And then he responded to me. Because again, I've sent him 3 things in a row. He hasn't gotten a chance to get in a word edgewise. And in a minute, I'll read to you the definition of Ikchantikas, because I put it in here somewhere, but I don't see it. At any rate, Tom, I don't know shit, but I do know that chanting Daimoku for over 1 hour every day now for 1 year, nothing unless you are indirectly. Tom, I don't know shit. I do know that chanting Daimoku for over 1 hour every day now for 1 year, giving nothing, unless you are indirectly. Tom, your emotional reaction does not change the fact that the Daimoku did not work for me. And he's calling me being emotional because it's very frustrating, and I don't hide my emotion easily, and I think anybody that's watching these videos has known I don't even try. So the bottom line is that I again apologize. I wasn't trying to be offensive. I've tried to explain what I was writing as I meant them and intended them to be taken by you. That's why I'm taking the time to do this video, even though you've already shown me that what I supplied you didn't take to heart. Okay? So if I didn't care, I would just blow you off and say, go to hell. That would be it. I do care. And I'm trying to make my point clearer so you understand, if you don't do what's prescribed, if you don't follow the prescription, how can you end up with the medicine? You know, it's not the right formulation. All right, so Tom, I don't know shit, but I do know that chanting Daimoku for an hour every day for 1 year, give me nothing unless you're talking indirectly. I think is what he left a word out. Tom, your emotional reaction does not change the fact, all caps, that Daimoku did not work for me, exclamation point. I've now explained why. Yes, I am smarter than some people and dumber than others. Good comeback. Guess what? I'm also taller than some people and shorter than others. That is life, Tom. Unless you live in a magical world where everybody is the same. Come on, man. And I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the fact that I'm trying to bring to light. I've already given you these same answers before. I've just not gone to the breadth and the extent of documenting where they're coming from. But this dialogue between us has been going on for some time, Andre. All right? So he says, come on, man. I don't know how we can get to ourselves. As you said, you are interested, I don't know how we can get to know ourselves, as you said you are interested to do, when you don't give a shit about my opinion. I do give a shit about your opinion, enough to tell you you're full of shit. Okay? I asked for your opinion to be able to know your opinion, so I can tell you you're full of shit. And your opinion doesn't have anything to do with my thinking you're full of shit. I think you're full of shit based on what you're saying and what I've already read to you that's not from me. Okay? I trust those points of reference and you don't. It's as simple as that, bro. And that's why you match perfectly a person of incorrigible disbelief, because that's what you keep expressing. Yes. I said, I don't know how we can get to know ourselves. I'm talking to him about, let's get to know each other as friends rather than you just keep questioning and answering me. And he had no idea how old I was, by the way. And I have no idea he was as young as he is. He says, I don't know how we can get to know ourselves as you said, but you are interested to do when you don't give a shit about my opinion. I do, but it's my obligation, as I already told you, based on the teaching, that I have to refute it when you give it to me, and it's not correct. All right? I don't have to care, pardon me, I don't have to care about me or what I think. That is your right. I do care about what you think, or I wouldn't be going out of my way to publicly refute you, man, or to get into some tit-for-tat bullshit with you. That's what I'm not interested in, because if you think you know something that I don't know, I'll nix this conversation right now, because you haven't shown me anything like that. And I may not have shown you anything like that. That's why I say, let's nix the conversation then. It's better than you continuing to slander what I'm saying. And what I'm saying, I'm reading from authoritative sources. So it isn't my opinion like Margaret Mead or whatever the hell her name is. Okay? This is the teaching. I am corroborating the teaching by quoting a dictionary, by quoting the sutra, by quoting the Gosho, by quoting the dictionary. He says, it really makes no sense. He's saying to me, it really makes no sense. Seems like you just an emotional reaction to someone who got their feelings hurt by something I said in my comment. Sorry about that, Tom. And again, if that was a sincere apology, I take it sincerely and thank you. It's very gracious of you, Andre. You didn't hurt my feelings. I got emotional because I've been saying the same thing over and over again. And I refuse to be used as a tool for slanderers to put their message out, as I've already had to deal with Mark Rogel and a bunch of other people. And where you're coming from is just on the edge of clever, bro. So I'm trying to take you at your word as having a seeking spirit, but it would seem like if you have a seeking spirit, you would be not disputing what I'm saying, but acknowledging it and then embracing it and then coming back to me after you've done that. But you're not. You basically repeat the same freaking thing you said over a year ago, which means you're not doing anything any differently based on anything I've said to you.
Right.
That's where I'm coming from. Does that make me emotional? Yeah. Do you know how busy I am? Do you know what I do in a day to just break my time out for little Andre? It certainly shows my wife that I care. I hope it would show anybody else that cares to know whether I care, that I care. There's only one of me. But what I'm saying right now is not good just for you. And that's why I'm saying it. It's good for everybody. And I'm reading it directly from sources that are not my opinion. So you finish. I still don't know how long I should keep doing daimoku until something happens, or should I just give up when I do know that it just won't work for me?
My God.
As a result, my faith will only diminish. Do you really have
no
any,
faith.
bro? I mean,
No.
If you do, that's great, and that's a starting point, but it doesn't change what I've already told you. And you say, apparently the universe, the mystic law, and then once again, you find it necessary to go the mystic law and put in parentheses behind that, supposedly. I mean, it's really kind of a shitty attitude you're expressing. I'm sorry to have to say it that way. That's certainly the way, as a strong and devout believer, I take it when you say that kind of shit. I take that as you might as well, woo, that's really, woo. Dude, don't be talking like that. Don't even be thinking like that.
Right.
Bad shit happens to people that do that. I know for a fact from watching it happen. Mm-hmm. All right. And yeah, that was very emotional. So what? And then he says, apparently the universe, the mystic law, supposedly, and whatever it is, don't seem to care much for me. No, actually, Andre, I will add this PS. You don't care much for you, because you're not listening to anything you're asking questions about. So it's all rhetorical. It's just for the sake of window dressing. You're not really trying to get to the bottom because you're not changing anything you're already saying. Then you respond to me. I guess this is because I had then sent you something about saying, are you sure you understand what dogma is? He says, Tom, I don't think you actually, I do. I don't think you actually understand the meaning of the concept of critical thinking. Please look it up. Which I read the dictionary definition, so you would know that I actually looked it up because you told me to. You asked me to. And then you say, I will not longer bother you or your channel, okay? But bro, if I go to my channel, I believe I find more posts from you, okay, saying more of the same kind of shit, all right? So let me real quick go to, pardon me, what am I looking for? Incorrigible, persons of incorrigible disbelief, pardon me. It might even be under I. I think it is, the first. Yeah, first thing under I. So it's not even put in here as a translated concept. It's in here as in its original state here. Ekchantika, or a person of incorrigible disbelief. Ekchantika means one who is filled with desire or cravings. Originally, ekchantika meant a hedonist, or one who cherishes only secular values. Only cherishes secular values. In Buddhism, the term came to mean those who neither believe in Buddhism nor aspire for enlightenment, and therefore have no prospect of attaining Buddhahood. In Buddhism, the term came to mean those who neither believe in Buddhism, which you just described yourself as being, nor aspire for enlightenment, which by constantly disparaging it, you're not showing what's been delineated as aspiration, and therefore have no prospect for attaining Buddhahood. You're cutting yourself off. That's why they're incorrigible disbelief. Supposedly you could never attain Buddhahood. It's not until the Lotus Sutra came along that people of incorrigible disbelief, the teaching says, no, they can, even they, just like Bodhisattva never disparaging the people that hit him and attacked him because he said that they were obviously Buddhas and he would never disparage them. When they attacked him, they all suffered the suffering for those actions, and ultimately did attain Buddhahood. And that's why the PS at the bottom of the dictionary definition that I read a moment ago says what it says. It'll say it here again. He says, Ikchantika, have no prospect for attaining Buddhahood. Many sutras say that Ikchantikas are inherently and forever incapable of reaching enlightenment, but some sutras hold that even Ikchantikas can become Buddhas. Like you, Andre. You chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. I'm not saying you can't become a Buddha tomorrow, but you got to change your attitude. You got to find the wisdom in the teaching that you're somehow missing, bro. This discrepancy concerning the potential of such people to attain enlightenment became a source of considerable debate among Buddhist schools over the centuries. So this is a little bit unique to Nichiren's way of thinking. The term Ikchantika also refers to one who slanders the correct teaching of the Buddha and does not repent or rectify the error. The Nirvana Sutra, translated by Dharmaraksha, says, Chunda spoke once more, asking, what is the meaning of the term Ikchantika? The Buddha said, Chunda, suppose there should be monks or nuns, laymen or laywomen, who speak careless and evil words and slander the correct teaching, and that they should go on committing these grave acts without ever showing any inclination to reform or any sign of repentance in their hearts. I'm sorry, but that's the impression you give me, Andre. Persons of this kind, I would say, are following the path of the Ikchantika. Again, there may be those who commit the 4 grave offenses or are guilty of the 5 cardinal sins, and who, though aware that they are guilty of serious faults from the beginning, have no trace of fear or contrition in their hearts, or if they do, give no outward sign of it. When it comes to the correct teaching, they show no inclination to protect, treasure, and establish it over the ages, but rather speak of it with malice and contempt, supposedly. Bro. They rather speak of it with malice and contempt, their words replete with error, because they think they know what they don't know. Persons of this kind, too, I would say, are following the path of the Ikchantika. It also says, good man, there are ekchantikas, or persons of incorrigible disbelief. They pretend to be arhats, living in deserted places and speaking slanderously of the correct and equal sutras of the great vehicle. When ordinary people see them, they all suppose that they are true arhats and speak of them as great bodhisattvas. In this sense, the conclusive paragraph in this definition, in this sense, ekchantika refers not simply to those who have no exposure to or interest in Buddhism, but to those who feign Buddhist faith and understanding for self-serving ends. The Nirvana Sutra, however, says all living beings alike possess the Buddha nature, thus revealing that ekchantikas can also attain Buddhahood. The Lotus Sutra says, at the start, the Buddha, took a vow, hoping to make all persons equal to me without any distinction between us, and what I long ago hoped for has now been fulfilled. In this sutra, Devadatta, who symbolizes the ekchantika, is assured of becoming a Buddha in the future. Okay, and I remember now that there was something else that I wanted to mention here, because you've mentioned it. Here's the 14 slanders again. I already just read that because that was there, but I want to also go into 14 slanders. What was I just looking at? Faith, practice, and study. Faith, practice, and study. To come back a little bit on this concept of what he's mentioned to me on more than one occasion as being the practice of daimoku. And the practice, in the Gosho, there's nothing that calls about anything about the practice of daimoku, and it starts and ends with daimoku. Okay? So it's faith, practice, and study is what we're actually taught in Nichiren Buddhism. That those three things are required for the Nam-myoho Renge-kyo to have its empowerment through the Buddha nature inherent in our life to manifest things in the reality of what we're beseeching our environment to reveal. All right, so faith, practice, study, Shingyo Gaku. The three fundamentals. Fundamental would mean what? It's got to be there. In the absence of one of those three, you're not practicing the three that are necessary to see the result that you're trying to achieve. So I'm not saying have faith because I'm just trying to be a dick. Faith is the first thing that you have to have. Practice and study come from faith. Actually, that's the one great secret law. Faith. Okay? So the three fundamentals in the practice of Nichiren's Buddhism. Faith means to believe in the Gohonzon, or the object of devotion. Practice means to chant the daimoku of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, as well as to explain Nichiren's teachings to others. Study means to study and understand the Buddhist teachings. Among these three, faith is the most fundamental for the attainment of Buddhahood. Faith gives rise to practice and practice and study serve to deepen faith. In The True Aspect of All Phenomena, written in 1273, Nichiren states, believe in the Gohonzon, the supreme object of devotion, in all of Jampadvipa. Dude, you don't have a Gohonzon. Andre, I know that. Which was fine as long as you're going to pursue checking out Nam-myoho Renge-kyo and chanting it with faith. But you've refused to do that no matter how many times I've mentioned it, and they're both the same thing. So, again, among these three, faith is the most fundamental for the attainment of Buddhahood. Faith gives rise to practice and study, and practice and study serve to deepen faith. In The True Aspect of All Phenomena, written in 1273, Nichiren states, believe in the Gohonzon, the supreme object of devotion of all of Jampadvipa, and be sure to strengthen your faith and receive the protection of Shakyamuni many treasures and the Buddhas of the 10 directions. Exert yourself in the two ways of practice and study. Without practice and study, there can be no Buddhism. You must not only persevere yourself, you must also teach others. Both practice and study arise from faith. Teach others to the best of your ability, even if only a single sentence or phrase. So, where are we at on time?
104.
104? Okay. I think that means that I'm not going to say what else I was going to say. I'm going to stop here. I was going to answer a point that I will at another time. I won't today. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for listening. We should be out of COVID sometime in September, hopefully. Bye.